Hey there, friends! Welcome back to ATC-History. I'm glad you could join me today because we're diving into something pretty eye-opening: the intricate relationship between wealth, fame, and the administration of justice, and how the rich and famous seem to play by different rules when it comes to the law. Many harbor the belief that legal systems operate with impartiality, treating all individuals equally regardless of their financial status, be they affluent, impoverished, or situated within the middle class. However, I stand before you today to challenge this misconception. Moreover, I intend to present compelling examples of influential figures who have successfully managed to wiggle out of harsh sentences for grave offenses. In some cases, they didn't even see the inside of a jail cell. Consider recent events. Have you observed Donald Trump's confrontations with the legal system, trial after trial, and somehow he keeps coming out on top? Sure, some might say those trials were bogus, but they were still trials, right? Or how about this? Did you hear about the current president of Romania, who allegedly acquired 2 houses through dubious means in the very city where he once served as mayor? And what of the infamous Epstein case, which sent shockwaves through society? Today, we're going to take a good, hard look at what equality before the law really means. I've got a lineup of cases involving some pretty influential people that might just change how you see our justice system. Before we embark on this journey of discovery, smash that like button, share it with your friends, and hit subscribe. It really helps get this important info out there. Equality before the law is a fundamental legal principle that stipulates that all individuals, regardless of their social status, race, religion, gender, or other characteristics, should be treated equally under the law. In theory, this principle means that law should be applied uniformly to all people. No one is above the law. Everyone should face the same legal consequences for similar actions. This uniformity is essential for maintaining order and ensuring that justice is served without favoritism. Access to justice is another critical aspect of this principle. It guarantees that all individuals have the right to legal representation and the ability to navigate the judicial system. This access is crucial because it empowers everyone to defend their rights, ensuring that the legal process is not an exclusive privilege for the wealthy. In essence, this principle is a guarantee of fairness and impartiality in the legal system. It is a fundamental human right that is enshrined in many international human rights instruments, including the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which states in Article 7, "All are equal before the law and are entitled without any discrimination to equal protection of the law." The saying, "the law is equal for all people who don't have money," is a cynical reflection of this reality. In practice, wealth and influence can often impact legal outcomes. This can occur in several ways. The first method. First, access to quality. Legal representation. Individuals with greater financial resources can afford to hire top-tier attorneys who may have more experience, connections, and resources to devote to their cases. This can lead to more favorable outcomes compared to those who rely on public defenders or less experienced attorneys. The second method. Plea bargaining. Wealthier individuals may have more leverage in plea bargaining negotiations. They can afford private investigators and experts who can gather evidence to strengthen their case or negotiate a more favorable deal. In contrast, those with limited resources may feel pressured to accept a plea deal to avoid the risk of a harsher sentence. The third method. Bail and pretrial detention. The ability to afford bail can significantly impact the outcome of a case. Individuals who cannot afford bail may spend extended periods in pretrial detention, which can have negative consequences such as job loss, family strain, and even a more severe sentence. The fourth method is through appeals. The ability to afford legal representation for appeals can be crucial. Wealthier individuals may have the resources to pursue multiple appeals, while those with limited means may have to rely on limited legal assistance or self-representation. Moreover, influence can also play a role. Individuals with significant social, political, or economic influence may benefit from preferential treatment within the legal system, either consciously or subconsciously. Those in positions of power, whether through political connections or social standing, may navigate the legal system with greater ease. They can leverage their relationships to sway decisions or negotiate settlements that might be unavailable to those without such connections. This imbalance raises questions about the impartiality of the justice system and whether it truly serves everyone equally. This could manifest in decisions made by police officers, prosecutors, judges, or jury members. As we journey around the world, we find that the intersection of wealth and justice is a global phenomenon, transcending borders and cultures. In Romania, we encounter the case of Gigi Becali, a flamboyant businessman and politician. In 2013, Becali was sentenced to 3 years in prison for his role in a fraudulent land exchange deal. However, his time behind bars was short-lived. After serving less than a year, Becali was released on parole, with the court citing his good behavior and the fact that he had written several books while incarcerated. Critics argued that his wealth and political connections played a significant role in his early release. An even more striking example involves the current president, Klaus Iohannis. Before ascending to the presidency, Iohannis and his wife found themselves embroiled in a controversial property case that continues to raise questions about the intersection of power, wealth, and justice in Romania. The case revolves around 2 houses in the city of Sibiu, which Iohannis and his wife allegedly acquired through questionable means when he was the mayor of that town, from 2000 to 2014. According to reports, the couple obtained these properties using documents that have been called into question. The properties, valuable real estate in the heart of Sibiu, were supposedly purchased from people who may not have been the rightful owners. What makes this case particularly noteworthy is not just the alleged act itself, but the aftermath. Despite the serious nature of the accusations, essentially amounting to property theft through falsified documents, Iohannis has faced no significant legal consequences. Instead, he went on to become the president of Romania in 2014 and was re-elected in 2019. Crossing over to Italy, we find ourselves in the midst of the infamous Silvio Berlusconi saga. The former prime minister faced numerous trials throughout his career, including charges of tax fraud, bribery, and paying for sex with an underage prostitute. Despite convictions in several cases, Berlusconi managed to avoid significant jail time. In 2013, when he was finally convicted of tax fraud, his 4-year sentence was reduced to 1 year of community service due to a law designed to reduce prison overcrowding. Many Italians saw this as another example of how the rich and powerful can manipulate the justice system. In Russia, the case of Sergei Polonsky stands out. Once listed among Russia's richest businessmen, Polonsky faced charges of embezzling billions of rubles from real estate investors. After years of legal battles and even fleeing to Cambodia, Polonsky was surprisingly acquitted in 2017. The court's decision raised eyebrows, with many speculating about the role his wealth and connections played in the outcome. Turning our attention to China, we encounter the curious case of Wu Ying. Once hailed as one of China's richest women, Wu was sentenced to death in 2009 for financial fraud involving hundreds of millions of dollars. However, in an unusual turn of events, her sentence was commuted to life imprisonment and later reduced further. While Wu didn't entirely escape punishment, many observers noted that her wealth and high profile seemed to have influenced the unusual leniency shown in reducing her sentence. In India, the case of Salman Khan, one of Bollywood's biggest stars, illustrates how fame and fortune can impact legal outcomes. In 2015, Khan was convicted of culpable homicide for a 2002 hit-and-run incident that killed a homeless man. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison, but remained free on bail during the appeal process. In 2018, Khan's conviction was overturned by a higher court, citing lack of evidence. The case sparked debate about whether Khan's stardom and wealth influenced the judicial process. Finally, in Great Britain, we have the case of Terence Shepard, a ticket fraudster who swindled millions of pounds from sport and music fans. Shepard was sentenced to 8 years in prison in 2011, but was released on license after serving less than half his sentence. His early release, coupled with the revelation that he had repaid only a fraction of the money he stole, led to public outcry. Critics argued that white-collar criminals like Shepard often receive more lenient treatment than those convicted of other types of crime. These cases, spanning continents and cultures, reveal a troubling pattern. From Romania to China, Italy to India, we see wealth and influence seemingly tipping the scales of justice. They force us to ask, is Lady Justice truly blind, or does she occasionally peek at bank statements? In a world where equality before the law is held as a fundamental principle, these cases suggest that some are more equal than others. Picture Sarah, a single mother of 2, standing outside the courthouse, her hands trembling as she clutches a court summons she can barely understand. Her neighbor's pro bono lawyer had just turned down her case. They're already overwhelmed. Her minimum wage job barely covers rent, let alone the $5,000 retainer fee lawyers keep quoting her. Justice for all rings hollow in America's marbled courtrooms. While corporate lawyers charge $1,000 an hour in gleaming office towers, public defenders juggle hundreds of cases, their desk phones ringing off the hook. It's a tale of two justice systems, one for those who can write blank checks, another for those counting quarters for the bus ride home. Consider Marcus, who spent 3 months in jail for a crime he didn't commit, simply because he couldn't afford $2,500 bail. His boss couldn't hold his position that long. The job went to someone else. His apartment followed. By the time the charges were dropped, Marcus had lost everything. Meanwhile, a wealthy college student arrested for the same offense was home the next day, his life barely disrupted. The system's blind spots often reveal themselves in subtle glances and unconscious assumptions. A black teenager in a hoodie faces tougher questions from the judge than a white executive in a suit. A wheelchair user struggles to access upper courtroom floors while others breeze past. These aren't just isolated incidents, they're threads in a larger tapestry of inequality that statistics have repeatedly confirmed. Behind the mahogany doors of state capitals, lobbyists whisper about tort reform and mandatory minimums, their clients' checkbooks speaking louder than community advocates. The same lawmakers who gut legal aid funding attend fundraisers with corporate donors who benefit from complex legal frameworks that overwhelm those who can't afford expensive counsel. Every day in courthouses across America, people like Sarah and Marcus face impossible choices: plead guilty to a crime they didn't commit or risk everything fighting for justice they can't afford. Their stories remind us that equal justice under law isn't just a phrase carved in stone, it's a promise we're still struggling to keep. The road to true justice isn't just about changing laws, it's about changing lives. Until we bridge the chasm between those who can buy justice and those who can't, that promise will remain unfulfilled for far too many Americans. Picture this. In the grand theater of our justice system, a troubling reality unfolds daily. A stark divide between those who can afford to purchase justice and those who watch it slip through their fingers like grains of sand. Every day, countless individuals walk into courtrooms across the nation, their hopes hanging by threads woven from their limited financial means. Imagine standing at the crossroads of justice, where two paths diverge dramatically. On one side, there's the smooth, well-paved road for those with deep pockets. They can afford not just stellar legal representation, but also the vital support services that often spell the difference between rehabilitation and recidivism. Mental health counseling, addiction treatment, expert witnesses. These become mere line items on a bill rather than insurmountable obstacles. But then there's the other path, a treacherous uphill climb where the cash bail system looms like a fortress wall. Here's where the cruel irony of our system bears its teeth. Those with money walk free while awaiting trial, their lives continuing almost unchanged. Meanwhile, others languish behind bars simply because they couldn't afford their temporary freedom. Jobs slip away, homes are lost, and families unravel, all before a single piece of evidence is presented in court. In this pressure cooker of desperation, innocent people often make an unthinkable choice, pleading guilty not because they committed a crime, but because they can't afford to fight for their truth. Beneath this visible inequality lurks an even darker current, the subtle but powerful undertow of bias and systemic racism. Like an invisible hand tipping the scales of justice, these prejudices weave through every level of our legal system. They whisper in the ears of judges, color the perceptions of jurors, and shape the split-second decisions of law enforcement. The result? A justice system that seems to wear different faces depending on your race, your zip code, or your bank balance. I hope this video has shed some light on the disparities between the rich and the poor, the famous and the ordinary, and even the powerful and the powerless. We've explored how wealth, fame, and influence can tip the scales of justice, challenging the ideal that justice is blind. Indeed, it seems that justice has keen eyes, lured by the glimmer of money, the flash of fame, and the allure of power. All too often, it's the ordinary people who suffer, those who fight for their lives, their freedoms, and their right to fairness under the law. But knowledge is power, and by understanding these complexities, we can strive for change. We can fight for a justice system that truly embodies fairness and equality for all. Until we meet again, stay honest, keep your eyes open, and never lose your curiosity. We'll be back with more insightful and thought-provoking content. Until then, stay vigilant, and let's continue to strive for a better, fairer world. Goodbye for now.